Hi. Is this Jimmy Pearson? No, my name is Jimmy Greyhawk. My wife Connie kept her maiden name Pearson. Well, this is Dr. Sahid Alvari. 6 months ago, your wife and I had an affair here at the hospital. What? Is this a joke? No, she was one fine piece of ass. Look, I don't have time. The reason I'm calling is I'm about to go back to Saudi Arabia, and about 2 months ago, your wife left me for a new doctor, Gregory Zender. I hope you're not a weak cuckold and get your revenge. Wait a minute. How do I know you're telling the truth? Well, if you get to storeroom 506 at the hospital in the next 15 minutes, you can probably catch her and Gregory doing it. Sorry, my plane's about to land. Good luck, Cook. Jimmy was in shock. His beloved wife, the mother of his daughter, was having sex with other men? It was too hard for him to believe. He was a slow man. His first thought was how to prove or disprove what he had heard. And then it occurred to him, Jerry. He was Jimmy's neighbor who worked as a security guard at the hospital where his wife, a nurse, also worked. He called Jerry on his cell phone. Hi, Jerry Austin. Security, how can I help you? Jerry, it's Jimmy. Listen, are you at work? Yeah, I'm making my rounds right now. What's up? Maybe it's nothing, but I just got a call from some Arab doctor saying Connie's having an affair. She and some other doctor are supposedly having sex right now in closet 506. Is there any way to get in there, and if she's in there, take a picture? Boy, are you sure? Connie? No, I'm not sure. That's why I need you to find out. Please, I need this favor. No problem, I definitely owe you for all the carpentry work you've done for me. I'm not far away now. I'll let you know if I see anything and send you pictures if I do. I really hope that's not true. You and Maddie deserve better. Thank you. While Jimmy waited, he tried to figure out what was going on. He devoted his life to his wife and 10-year-old daughter. The house they lived in had been built mostly with his own hands in 3 years. Everything was built the way his wife wanted it. As far as he knew, Connie was happy. Then he thought about the last 6 months. His wife had started working longer hours and staying overnight when she only had a few hours between shifts. Their sex life had suffered, as he'd expected given her work schedule, but she hadn't complained about anything and seemed to enjoy their sex as much as ever. After all, there was no way she would jeopardize their marriage and the raising of their daughter, was there? The wait was agonizing. The phone rang. Jimmy? I'm sorry, man, but your wife and Dr. Zender were doing it like two horny teenagers. I got pictures and video to send you. I don't think they noticed me. I'm sorry. If you want me to do anything else for you, let me know. After watching the video and seeing his wife willingly having sex, Jimmy cried for one of the few times in his life. Dad? Maddie, what are you doing in there? Come back to bed, sweetie. It's okay. I heard the phone ringing and then I heard you crying. What's the matter? I'm 10 years old. I'm not a child. I need to know. Maddie was mature beyond her years. Jimmy found it hard to deny her anything because she always seemed to do the right thing. Upon reflection, he realized that this situation was affecting her as much as it was affecting him. I'm crying because I just got proof that your mother, how shall I put it, loved another man in the hospital. I'm trying to figure out what to do. She finishes work soon, and I think I should wait to talk to her then. I don't think she's coming home today. I overheard her telling someone on the phone that she was happy they were going to spend the whole night together. I thought she meant work. I think you should call her right now. See what she says. Okay. Maybe there's some good explanation. Jimmy's been told not to call his wife's cell phone while she's working unless there's an emergency. That's considered an emergency. After a few beeps, a panting voice answered, Jimmy, is something wrong with Maddie? You seem out of breath, honey. Are you okay? I didn't have my phone with me, so I had to run to get it. What happened? Remembering the videotape took away any desire to be understanding. I thought you might have been short of breath because you just had sex with Dr. Zander. The pause dragged on before she said, Oh shit, he knows. Don't worry, Greg, I'll take care of it. The statement was made to the other person in the pantry. Jimmy, I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but I'm glad you know now. That's definitely not the answer I was expecting. I love you and our marriage, but I work so hard in life and death situations that I have to deal with a lot of stress. I deserve something more to deal with all that responsibility. That's it. A little extra sex on the side to reduce the stress. There's nothing special about it. It doesn't affect our marriage or the fact that I'm the mother of our daughter. I'm afraid I don't quite see it that way. Look, I have to get back to work. That's the way it is. You have two choices. 1. Let things be the way they are. We continue to raise our daughter. You get a loving wife who occasionally gives you sex, but sometimes has sex with other men. Or 2. You file for divorce and I get half of our assets, the house and primary custody of Maddie. You'll get every weekend and every other major holiday to visit your daughter. That's how divorce works in our state. I guarantee I will make your life unbearable and find every excuse possible to cancel your scheduled visits. I know how much you love Maddie, so you really only have one choice. After I finish this shift, Greg and I will go to a motel and spend the night together. Tomorrow I'll work my regular day shift, and tomorrow night I'll come home and we can talk. You'll see that it's better for you to just go on with your life the way it is. Bye. Jimmy and Maddie sat at the kitchen table and looked at each other, seeing anger, frustration, and sadness fighting for dominance. Well, Maddie, I don't know what to do. I don't think I can live here knowing that your mom is having sex with other men. If I file for divorce, I won't be able to see you every day. I don't think at your age a judge would let you choose who you stay with. If I move out, do you think you can stay here with your mother? Hell no! Maddie, Daddy, I'm a big girl. If I have a choice, I want to be with you. I guess we don't have much of a choice. Daddy, there's another choice. What's that? Burn the bitch! What are you talking about? Remember my friend Beverly? Well, her dad caught Beverly's mom fooling around and he just left. He took all the money he could and just disappeared. After a while, they caught him and had a nasty divorce. You and I could leave her as little money as possible and just disappear. Her idea seemed quite feasible to Jimmy. Where would we go? You know where. Realizing what Maddie was suggesting, his father thought, I don't think they'll take me back. You might ask. I had a vision of us going back. Maddie was the granddaughter of the most respected spiritual leader on the Turtle Mountain Chippewa Indian Reservation. Jimmy had left the tribe when he joined the Army with his buddy Tommy White Elk. He was an angry young man, disrespected his parents and his people, and was kicked out of the tribe. After serving in Iraq, his anger cooled, and he reestablished contact with his mother. During the time he was alone with Maddie, he told her about her family and especially about her grandmother. In the past few years, his daughter had shown signs of being able to perceive and interpret visions. Connie knew almost nothing about his family or what he taught Maddie. He'd told his wife he didn't want to talk about anything in his life before he left the Army, and Connie hadn't asked many questions. All right, I'll make the call. Your mom won't be back until tomorrow after 5 o'clock. We have a lot to do until then. Connie and Greg were getting dressed to go to work after a whole night together. Connie was disappointed. Greg could have sex but didn't seem to know how to make love, which she recognized Jimmy was really good at. Her doctor lover had only been good twice in 8 hours. Connie realized that part of the thrill of sex with Dr. Xander, as with Alvary before him, was the secret, unauthorized side of their time together. Now that Jimmy knew, sex with someone else wasn't so exciting. Every time she had a few minutes off during her Monday afternoon shift, Connie thought about how she had to finish up with Greg and get things going with Jimmy. After all, Greg's teacher wife would be moving here with their 2 children as soon as the school year was over. Connie could go back to being a model wife, lover, and mother, and then look for someone else when things got back to normal at home. There was no way Jimmy would give up sex with her or jeopardize his access to Maddie. Connie left the hospital at the end of her shift and headed for her car in the service parking lot. From a few feet away, she could see that all 4 tires were flat. How childish, she thought. Well, here's a plan to make it nice when I get home. She tried calling Jimmy's cell phone, but the phone wasn't answering. She asked one of her coworkers to lend her the phone. Connie's call to her husband's cell phone caused her to get the message, "Service at this number is no longer available." So, he wanted to play nasty. Well, so could she. The threat of divorce alone might get him back on track, but she'd have to see him grovel. She used the phone again to hail a cab. On the way home, she pondered various ways to punish Jimmy other than sticking a scalpel to his balls. Turning into her neighborhood, Connie noticed a column of smoke, followed by fire trucks and police cars. It looked like one of our neighbors had a fire. The closer the cab pulled up, the clearer she realized that it wasn't her neighbor's house on fire, it was hers. Connie jumped out of the cab, telling him to wait. As she rushed toward the house, the fire chief ordered her to stay away. "But this is my house. Where are my husband and daughter? Are they okay?" "I think they're fine. Your neighbor said she saw them leave right after they set a bunch of clothes on fire." "What?" Connie looked out into the yard and saw a burning pile of her clothes. On top of the pile were some clothes lying on top of it. After a few seconds, she realized they were her wedding albums. The pictures of that oh-so-expensive wedding she just had to have were disappearing in the smoke. Looking at the house, she noticed that although the fire was under control, there wasn't much left of the house she loved so much. Connie saw her nearest neighbor, Mrs. Jensen, standing on the sidewalk watching. When she approached her neighbor, Mrs. Jensen frowned. "They're gone. I hope you're happy now." "What are you talking about, Mrs. Jensen?" "Jimmy and Maddie talked to me before they started the fire. They wanted to make sure my house was safe. They told me what you did. I can't believe you could treat this wonderful man and precious little girl so horribly. I hope you're in pain for a long time." "It's just a misunderstanding." "Wait, are you saying that Jimmy started the fire? But he built this house with his own hands. It was our home, our beautiful home. Where are they?" "Your husband told me that because he built this house, he could tear it down. It was just a house." "Jimmy said the house stopped being a house when you decided to stop being a wife and mother. He burned the house down." "You burned the house down. Jimmy and Maddie are gone, honey. They plan to disappear where you'll never find them, and I hope they succeed." With these words, Mrs. Jensen shuffled away. Back at the fire, the chief informed Connie that it would be several days before they could declare the house safe to search for any valuables that might have survived. He asked if there was anywhere she could go. After a pause, she said, "My parents." Back in the cab, Connie gave the driver her parents' address. Many thoughts crossed her mind, which mostly oscillated between two options. He'd come back and apologize and then build a new, even better house, or once I found him, I'd royally screw him in the divorce. In the midst of her internal debate, they made it to her parents' house. When she went to pay for the cab, the driver told her her card had been rejected 3 times. She asked the driver to wait to collect the money from her father. She rang the bell, and for the first time today, tears came to her eyes. Connie needed her parents' emotional support. Harry opened the door, but not all the way. "What do you want?" "Daddy, it's me, Connie. Let me in. Something terrible has happened. Jimmy." "I know what's happened. Jimmy and Maddie stopped here on their way out of town. How could you? I loved him like the son I never had. She's our only granddaughter. We raised you better than, I'm afraid we can no longer consider you our daughter." "Dad, what are you talking about? It's just a misunderstanding. Jimmy will come back and I'll straighten it out. Let me talk to Mom." "A misunderstanding? Is that what you kids call it now? How can you misunderstand someone else's man and not your husband? How can you misunderstand another man's thing in your mouth? I've seen the pictures." "Does he has pictures? Oh my God! Where's Mom? I need to explain this to her." The door didn't open any wider. "Your mother's in bed. The doctor had to prescribe a sedative. We're lucky she didn't have a heart attack when she saw the pictures." "Jimmy showed your mom the pictures?" "How could he?" "He didn't want to, but your mother said she would never believe her daughter could do something so vile, so against what she had taught her, so against what her religion taught her. So I held out the pictures to her, and as soon as she saw them, she fainted. She doesn't want to see you any time soon, if ever." The door closed. She didn't have the courage to ask for money for a cab. Connie walked back to the cab in tears. "Where to now?" he asked. "It must be somewhere to get money." Connie decided that her credit card was no good either. After a little thought, she gave the driver her little sister's address. Connie didn't have a good relationship with Leslie, but her sister was a good aunt to Maddie. Leslie had gotten a reputation as a slut back in high school and had fallen out of favor with her parents. Connie wasn't sure what kind of welcome she would get. but Leslie was her only family. This time the door swung open wide. Leslie had an understanding smile on her face. Good, good. I've been waiting for you. Dad must have called you. No, Jimmy and Maddie stopped by on their way here. I figured Mom and Dad might not be receptive to their daughter's cheating, since they're still not too happy with their slut daughter. Before we go in, can I ask you a big favor? Actually, 2 favors. There's something wrong with my credit card and I need to pay for a cab. And then can I stay with you for a while? Jimmy burned down our house. After a brief mental deliberation, Lisa relented. Okay, I guess I owe you one. Thanks. After paying the cabbie and settling down on the couch in her sister's living room, Connie asked, What did you mean when you said you owed me? I don't remember lending you anything lately. You haven't. I grew up in the shadow of Miss Goody Two-Shoes and her high grades, perfect looks, and noble career. You made me sick. I was compared to you all the time, and I couldn't handle it. I became a failure, but it made me different from you, which is what I thought I wanted. Now you've made me the good daughter. Everybody loves Jimmy. How many times has he volunteered to use his carpentry skills to help one of your neighbors, some missionary group? This house was a shrine to you, and what did you do? You're slinging mud at it. My niece was the most fantastic kid I ever knew. I'm gonna miss her so much. You had the most loving, devoted, caring, patient husband, and you reward him by ripping his heart out and stomping on it. I'll tell you what, if Jimmy comes back, I will beg him to be with me. As much as I like a variety of lovers, I would give my life and be the most devoted lover or wife the world has ever seen. You are a stupid, selfish, arrogant bitch, and I hope you suffer as much as he does. Don't be so subtle about your feelings for me, Connie said sarcastically. You don't understand the pressure I've been under, how the stress wore me down. I was needy and I deserved to be rewarded, so I got a little extra sex. Nothing important. Jimmy blew the whole thing out of proportion. He overreacted and he's gonna pay. You need to see a therapist. The planet you live on is a few million light years away from the planet the rest of us live on. There's no way to forgive what you did. It was just sex. It was betrayal. Besides, you told him he had to accept being a cuckold or you would keep him away from your daughter. No real man would put up with what you're doing, and Jimmy's a real man. You can stay here for a while so I can enjoy your misery. Well, at least there's nothing more he can do now. I, however, can fight back. He took my daughter without my permission, and that's kidnapping. He'll have to deal with the law. We'll see how he likes the bunkmates he gets in prison. Connie spent a restless night at her sister's house. The next day, she left work to try to get her life in order. She found that everything that had been in both their names was now in her name only. Their joint checking account, mortgage, her car loan, credit card, cell phone, etc. At least half of their joint assets had been transferred to her personal savings account, so she had the funds to find a place and start changing her clothes and personal belongings. Toward the end of the day, she called the insurance company to report the fire and find out what she needed to do to recover her losses. She was surprised to find that Jimmy had canceled the homeowner's insurance for the fire. There would be no insurance for the house. All Connie had was the lot on which the burned house stood. At least the house was paid off, so she didn't have to worry about paying a mortgage on a house that no longer existed. It seemed like every few minutes she learned about something else she was solely responsible for. She wasn't used to dealing with such minor issues. Jimmy took care of those details. Connie began to realize how much Jimmy had contributed to their life together. Connie realized that she had confused a missing persons report with a report of a minor kidnapping. While a missing person report could not be reported until 48 hours after they left, a kidnapping report could be reported immediately. She went to the police station. The sergeant on duty was very attentive when she said she wanted to report a kidnapping. Who's been kidnapped? My 10-year-old daughter, Maddie. Madeline Ray Pearson. So you're the mother? Yeah, Connie Pearson. Is there a father? Yeah, Jimmy Greyhawk. He's the one who kidnapped her. The sergeant's demeanor changed quickly. Jimmy Greyhawk, the carpenter? So this is a custody dispute, part of the divorce? No. He just took her and left. Didn't he burn his house down before he left? Now a smile appeared on his face. Our house. He burned down our house. That's not funny. I apologize. It's just that Jimmy made a lot of men happy with his bold gesture, especially those whose wives made them cuckolds. How? How do you know about that? I talked to the cops who were at the fire. Besides, it's a small town. Word travels fast. Are you going to help me or not? Connie asked. I'll do my job, the duty sergeant whispered under his breath. Too bad you didn't do yours. Jimmy built a ramp for my mother so she wouldn't have to go to a nursing home. I'll do my job, but don't expect any favors. While Connie was seething with anger, the sergeant got the required form. All right now, when did he allegedly abduct his daughter? Sometime between Sunday night and 5:30 Monday night? That's pretty vague. Well, I didn't get home from hospital duty until Monday night. That's when I found out. Do you have any idea where they might have gone? Not really. Jimmy never talked much about his family. He's Native American. I guess he could have gone back to the reservation. Now, that's useful information. What tribe and what reservation? I really don't know. There aren't that many tribes out there, are there? Could you send out a patrol or whatever you call it and ask the local police to look for him? I think there's over 300 of them. You don't know much about Indian affairs, do you? Indian territories are almost like a foreign country. Most of them have their own system of government, so requests from whites aren't treated the same as in other parts of the country. We could make flyers and see if the Department of the Interior sends them to reservations. Do you know of anything that might help narrow it down? Not right away. Wait a minute. His boss was in the army with Jimmy. He might know something useful. All right. Cell phone rings. Go talk to him. He'll probably react better to you than the police. In the meantime, do you have any recent photos of these two? Not me. Jimmy was the one who took the pictures. Most of them burned up in the fire. You mean you don't have a picture of your husband or daughter in your wallet or on your cell phone? Oh, wait a minute. I have a picture of Maddie on my cell phone, even though it's a few years old. She looks very different now. I think that tells us a lot about how you feel about your husband and daughter. He sighed. I'm sorry, but I like Jimmy a lot. I'm sure your parents have some recent pictures. Bring them over when you get them. I'm too busy to worry about keeping pictures in my wallet. That's what albums are for. Back at work for the first time since the fire, Connie quickly noticed a change in the way she was greeted by others. There were no smiles. No one spoke to her unless she spoke first. Staff who usually called her by her first name now addressed her by her last name. After a few stilted exchanges of remarks, Connie took Sheila aside. She had worked with Sheila for over 5 years, and they had what Connie would call a friendship. What's going on, Sheila? Why am I being treated like I'm poisonous? That's a good description of how we feel. You are poisonous. We all know what you've been doing with the doctors. We thought your husband must have known about it and been pleased. Thank God he wasn't as weak as everyone thought. The head of security let us know what kind of man your husband was. War hero and all that. And then there's your daughter. Just as importantly, doctors and nurses who goof around on duty are endangering patients. Several times I have been unable to reach you when you were supposed to be on duty. Don't get me started. Anyway, we'll do our job. But don't expect any favors. I'm done. Sheila backed off. War hero? Jimmy wasn't a war hero. He's a carpenter, someone spreading lies. The next day, Connie didn't have the day shift, so he went to see Jimmy's boss and friend, Milton. Connie pulled into the construction company parking lot and saw a spot in front of the office sign. As she entered the building, she walked up to the counter where Jimmy's boss was standing. Hi, Milton. Is Jimmy working today? The construction boss answered. No, he came in and quit on Monday. If he wasn't such a good buddy, I would have blown him off for leaving without notice. After what he told me about what you did, I not only understand but support him 110%. Anything else? I'm busy. Do you have any idea where he and Maddie are? No, and if I did, I wouldn't tell you. You don't understand what I owe this man. Milton thought he had tears in his eyes. Somebody said he was a war hero. Wasn't he just a simple carpenter in the army? That was his story to keep people at home from worrying, Milton said with a chuckle. He was on a reconnaissance team. Since he was a Native American, they considered him a scout. His job was to lead any missions. Jimmy was the first to get fire. Whatever guardian angel was watching over him must have been working double shifts. I can't tell you how many times he was in battles and came out of there without a scratch. He saved my ass a few times. Did you know he earned both a bronze and silver star? He didn't tell me anything about that, Connie insisted after a pause. You mentioned that he's Native American. Do you know what tribe or reservation he's from? Again, I don't know. I won't tell you. The only person he talked to about Indian affairs was his best buddy, Tommy White Elk. Where can I find him? Probably up in the great hunting ground in the sky. Tommy was killed just before he and Jimmy were supposed to go home, but it wasn't Jimmy's fault. He dragged Tommy's wounded body through the crossfire and then went back for the other two. Tommy was already too far gone by the time they took him away. That's what Jimmy got the silver star for. Now I really have to go. Connie thought, great, now I'll know I cheated on a war hero. I'd better not say, at least it can't get any worse. Why didn't he ever tell me about his life before he left the army? I wish he was here to ask him. Damn, I was such a fool. The next day, when Connie reported for work, she and Dr. Zander were called into the administrator's office. They said nothing to each other, deciding that the conference would not be good for them. Mr. Chambliss greeted them briefly. It has come to my attention that you two have had sexual relations on hospital grounds during working hours. Apparently, I am the last person in the hospital to know about this. When I first heard about it, I was inclined to place a letter of reprimand in your professional files. After calls from all the hospital board members asking what I was going to do about the situation, it became clear that if I didn't fire you, I was going to be fired. In fact, my job is still in jeopardy thanks to you. Therefore, you both terminate your employment immediately. Security guards are waiting outside my door and will take you to your lockers to collect your personal belongings. In addition, you will both report to your profession's licensing board. Based on previous similar cases, I think your licenses will be suspended for at least 1 year. I hope the sex was good enough to make up for the shame and humiliation, not to mention the loss of income you've both blamed on yourselves. Now get the hell out of my office. As they were leaving, Gregory approached Connie. Your asshole husband sent a letter and pictures to my wife. Thanks a lot, bitch. I never want to see you again. By the way, you may have a great body, but the sex wasn't that good. After emptying her locker, Connie sighed. No job, no home, no husband, no daughter, no friends, no family support to speak of. All I have is myself. What am I supposed to do now? Jimmy and Maddie. Hello, Turtle Mountain Preserve. Hello, may I speak to Hank Garcia, please? Wait a minute, who's calling? Maybe it's better if I don't tell you. Okay. I'll see if he answers the phone. A good minute or two of silence on the phone. It's Hank Garcia. Tell me who it is or the call ends now. Hank, it's Jimmy Greyhawk. I want to come back. You got a lot of nerve calling here. You're not welcome here. Wait, don't hang up. I've got Cloud Girl's granddaughter with me. After a few seconds on hold, Hank continued. How old is she? Does she have any powers? Maddie is 10 years old, and she started having visions a couple years ago. She was the one who saw us coming back. You know very few people would take you back. I know, but I've changed. I was a defiant, immature, foolish fool who disowned my family and my people. I can only beg the tribe for forgiveness. I'll be honest with you, Hank replied. If you didn't have the Cloudbearer's granddaughter, I wouldn't even bring up your return to the council. There's still no guarantee that they'll even agree to accept you, as you said. Her name? Maddie. It's short for Madeline. My mother, Cloud Woman, foresaw that I would have a daughter, and she helped me overcome my unreasonable hatred for my family and my people. She knew she would not be here to teach her granddaughter, so she told me something I could do before I brought her back to be trained by the elders. She is young but very mature for her age. I can talk to the council, Hank suggested. Can you be here the day after tomorrow? 7 p.m.? What's your number so I can tell for sure if you're coming or not? We're on the road heading north now. We should be there by then. After giving Hank his number, Jimmy hung up. Maddie tried to reassure her father. Don't worry, Daddy. Cloud Woman will be with us. Jimmy got the call, and the council agreed to meet with them soon. The elders, who remembered Cloud Woman, were persuasive enough to at least let Jimmy argue his case before the council. Jimmy and Maddie met with the Turtle Mountain Council. It was Maddie who caught the men's attention. Questions poured in. What powers have you experienced? Are you willing to learn from a witch doctor, even if it means you have to part with your father? Prove to us that you have the power of vision? Maddie was confused by these questions and gave short, honest answers. She admitted that she could not provide proof of any skills. She was thanked and released. The healer, Little Dove, who had spoken to Maddie before the council meeting, came in. "What do you think of the abilities a little girl might have?" one of the council members asked. "Cloud Woman has been my spirit guide, and I have felt her presence many times. Her spirit is strong in her granddaughter, but there is too much of the white man in her now. It will take a lot of work to see if she can be a strong connection to the spirit world." "Do you think we should let her stay?" "Definitely. I would welcome the challenge of teaching, and she seems very eager to learn. However, she has made it clear that she and her father have made a package deal. You have to accept both into the tribe, or she won't stay." After the healer left, the council members were in complete agreement that the girl would stay, but were still reluctant to let Jimmy stay. Unable to come to a consensus, the council asked Hank's opinion. Hank suggested that they both stay, but on the condition that Jimmy make some sort of apologetic gesture toward the tribe. If it turned out that Maddie had no ability, they should both be sent away. Jimmy thought long and hard about what kind of apologetic gesture would suffice. He knew how to do carpentry, so he looked to see if the tribe needed anything built. He noticed that the medical clinic was in poor condition. The building was old, dirty, and the plaster was crumbling off the walls. If people didn't get sick before they went there, they would probably catch something there. The new clinic building would be his gesture. The woman who taught Maddie joined his daughter in choosing the best place to heal. Then the council would have to approve. All that needed to be done now was to build it, on his own. Jimmy drew up a plan. It wasn't hard since he had done most of the work to build the clinic in Nicaragua during his business trip. This time he had to buy all the materials himself. Then he had to build the clinic. The tribe had to watch Jimmy build the clinic. He didn't ask for help. No one offered to help. It took months to build it, but it was built right. There was a blessing ceremony. From that point on, Jimmy was conditionally allowed to return to the tribe, but he was still on probation. Not everyone agreed with the decision to let him return. One night, Jimmy was captured as he was returning to where he and Maddie were staying. He was stripped and whipped with green branches from a bush with large thorns. Now, not only would they hurt, the scars would stay forever. They wanted Jimmy to realize that the punishment for betraying the tribe would last forever. Jimmy didn't cry the whole time. He waddled back to the house where Maddie put ointment on his wounds. Maddie wanted revenge, but her father said what they did was necessary to make some people believe he had been punished enough. Several years passed. Jimmy found carpentry work in the nearby oil fields and in town. He traveled daily to work with several other men from the tribe. It was good money. During this time, flyers appeared with old pictures of Jimmy and Maddie saying they were missing. It didn't say anything about kidnapping. Then one day, flyers appeared that mentioned a $5,000 reward. Jimmy knew there were plenty of people on the reservation who would probably turn him in for a lot less money. Although Maddie no longer looked like her old picture, Jimmy still did. Maddie had gotten a tan and seemed to have transformed into a beautiful 14-year-old girl. She had been chosen to help sell authentic local jewelry to tourists, casino players. No one, it seemed, could refuse her. Maddie just hoped that no buyer would make her admit that although they were made by real natives, they were real natives born and working in China. One day, Maddie came to her father and reported, "I had a vision that Mommy was coming." Jimmy knew that sooner or later the time would come when he would have to deal with Connie and her probable desire to take Maddie. His emotions were mixed and strong. "What do you think we should do, Cloud Woman?" Maddie's vision abilities grew quickly under the tribe's tutelage and allowed her to take the same name as her grandmother. A very great honor. "It's time to deal with this," Maddie said. "I want to see her. You have to see her. The next week, Maddie was selling jewelry to a group of tourists who had recently gotten off a tour bus. She saw a blonde-haired woman looking around the gift shop and immediately knew who it was. Maddie approached the woman and asked, "Don't you love the craftsmanship of these necklaces? They would hang wonderfully around the neck of such a pretty woman." The woman turned to the teenage girl and felt her heart tingle. Something about this girl reminded her of Maddie, but she was taller, tan, and with completely different hair. Still, "Would you smile at me, princess?" Maddie smiled, showing beautiful white teeth. Connie sighed. The Maddie she remembered had a big gap between her front teeth. This girl had perfect teeth. Connie was disappointed. "Yes, I would like to buy the necklace." While she and Maddie were exchanging lines, Connie heard someone's voice behind her. "Hello, Connie. It was a long time ago." Connie didn't have to turn around. She knew exactly who was talking to her. It was her Jimmy. She closed her eyes, gathered her wits, and when she opened her eyes, she turned to greet him. She was surprised that his face seemed much more stern than she remembered. However, there was no smile on his face. She feared a much worse reception. She desperately wanted to hug him, but saw nothing in his eyes that made her believe he would be receptive. "Jimmy, it's so good to see you. I have so much to tell you, but please tell me where Maddie is. I'm dying to see her." Turn around. Maddie was still standing there, but now she was smiling with tears in her eyes. "Hi, Mom. I missed you." A tight hug and more tears followed. "I missed you too, sweetie. You've grown so much. You're just gorgeous. I can't believe I drove you both away. I'm so sorry, so sorry." More hugs, more tears. Finally, she turned to Jimmy and said, "I'm not here to open old wounds. I'd like to be able to apologize and spend as much time with Maddie as possible." "Are you going to try to take her with you?" "No, I don't want to mess up your life again. I just want to be around Maddie for as long as you'll let me." "What about your job and your boyfriend or husband?" "When I was convinced you two were here, I quit my job and put my stuff in storage. Since you left, I haven't had a boyfriend or husband. I've dated a few, but no relationship has worked out. You taught me a harsh lesson, but I deserved it. I hadn't been with anyone since you left. I didn't want to start a new relationship until I healed my old one." "I haven't started a new relationship either. The reason was because I was afraid I couldn't trust a woman anymore. It didn't work the first time. By the way, we're divorced, aren't we?" "Yes, I had to file for divorce to get the government benefits I needed to survive after my nursing license was suspended." "You're not a nurse anymore?" "After a year, I got my license back. It was hard to find a job that paid as well as I was making before, but I was able to support myself and put some money aside. I even went back to school and got my APRN. Is there anything Maddie needs? Will you let me buy her?" Jimmy looked offended. "No, Maddie has everything she needs." Finally, a smile appeared on his lips. "Jimmy, and almost everything she wants. She's a teenager now, after all." Maddie joined the conversation. "Mom, you're not going to stay long, are you?" "It's up to you two. I have a reservation at the Economy Lodge." "Ooh, that place is full of bed bugs. You're staying with us," Maddie said with the confidence only a teenager can display. "No, I can't impose on you and your father, baby. First of all, I'm not a child and we have a spare bedroom. Now let's get your luggage." "No, I need to talk to your dad first." "Maddie and I have already talked it over," Jimmy intervened. "It will be much easier for you to spend time with Maddie if you live with us. I suppose you realize that doesn't mean any renewal of the relationship between you and me. You'll be there as Maddie's mother, nothing more." "Of course I will. I understand. I hope you'll let me help with the cooking and other things. I won't feel good if I don't stay." "Ew, I hope your cooking's better. Sorry, Mom, but your cooking sucks." After all three of them chuckled, Jimmy told Connie to go to her room, and he would drive up in the Jeep to get her and her things. The trip wasn't long as they drove through the touristy part of the reservation and ended up in one of the residential neighborhoods. They stopped in front of a house that, like everything else around it, had a Western Plains motif. Wood and Indian jewelry dominated the inside. Jimmy carried Connie's luggage into the spare bedroom. Connie looked around the room and noticed that it definitely had a feminine feel to it. "Is this your room, Maddie?" "It was Songbird's room," Maddie stated again. "She's Daddy's cousin who helped us until we needed to take care of Daddy." I'm big enough now that we don't need much help to take care of me. But it would be nice if you could help a little. Tears came to her eyes and she choked up. It's so good to see you again, Mom. Jimmy, I need to talk to you first. You may not want to hear what I have to say, but I have to say it. Her ex-husband said nothing, but stood there. I denied for a long time that I had done anything wrong, even though everyone, and I mean everyone, was telling me that I had screwed up big time. It wasn't until my mom finally spoke to me that it hit me. Seeing the tears and suffering I put her, my own daughter, through, and being the reason she couldn't see her only granddaughter. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I went to a therapist and began to become what I hope is a better person. I know these are just words, but I hope you can see enough change in me to allow me to recognize my daughter again. I can never hope that you will forgive me, and I am willing to live with that. I messed up my life and my family's life. I deserve all the punishment you've given me and more. All I can say right now is I'm sorry. Jimmy remained standing without any expression on his face. Mentally, he said to himself, she's right about one thing. They're just words. Maddie wants her here, so I'll put up with Connie as long as I can. Weeks went by, and a routine reigned in the house that seemed to suit everyone. Connie did most of the chores around the house and spent a lot of time getting to know Maddie and learning a lot about the tribe. Connie was careful not to show Jimmy intimate parts of her body or make any attempts that he might consider flirting. Conversations at the dinner table were comparable to those from their past lives, although Connie's schedule as a nurse in their past lives often prevented them all from being together. One evening, Connie asked Jimmy if they could talk. I've been here for a few weeks now, and I've enjoyed every minute I've spent with you and Maddie. I think it's time we talked about where we're going next. You're not going to take Maddie back to where we came from, Jimmy asked angrily. I'm not going to. Hell no, Jimmy. That's not what I'm saying at all. I don't want to leave with Maddie. That's not the problem. I mean, I can't keep living off the two of you. I think I need a job first. I talked to the people at the reservation clinic, and they offered me a job. Long hours and low pay. How could I refuse? Connie tried to liven up the conversation. It's time to talk about whether I should get my own place. Don't you like it here? I like it here. I just don't know if you like my presence or not. We both probably have good and bad memories of when we were married, but watching you, I never could figure out if you wanted me to stay here. Sometimes you look happy, and sometimes you look like a man who is ready to burn down the house he built with his own hands. I'm asking you, what do you think would be best? Jimmy didn't allow himself to think about the future. He took every moment by itself. His heart was safe from ever trusting her again. However, Connie seemed to have really changed and was just as good or even better than when they first got married. I think I need to think about this some more. Maybe it would be easier for you to make a decision if I wasn't here. There's a room for rent in Montana that I can afford, and it's not that far away. I'll move my stuff there tomorrow. Whatever you decide, I want you to know that I will always be grateful to you and Maddie for letting me be a part of your life again, even though I can't say I'm entitled to it. Later that night, Connie woke up to the sound of crying. Ignoring the fact that she was only wearing a small nightgown, she rushed to Maddie's room. Opening the door, she saw her daughter sound asleep. Turning around, she realized that the crying was coming from Jimmy's bedroom. Connie cautiously approached his door. The door opened quietly, and she saw Jimmy sitting on the edge of the bed in just his underwear with his arms around his head and sobbing. She went over and sat down next to him and cried too. Jimmy, what's the matter, honey? Is there anything I can do? Is my being here just making things worse? Connie ran her hand down his back and felt the many scars she still hadn't seen. Oh my God, Jimmy, what happened? It was part of what I had to go through to regain the favor of the tribe. That's awful. This is all my fault. None of this would have happened if I'd just been faithful. I thought I suffered a lot, but I was never physically punished. I'm sorry, baby. Please tell me what I can do to make things better. After taking a few deep breaths to pull himself together, Jimmy spat out, I don't deserve this. You're not staying here. I can't take it anymore. It's just too hard. I'm sorry. I've hurt you in ways I never imagined. I'm such a fool. I'll leave first thing in the morning. I'm so sorry. She got up to go back to her room. Jimmy grabbed her arm. My problem is that I can't be around you right now without wanting to be with you like when we were married. You are so beautiful. And I keep thinking about the times we made love, just sitting and holding each other. My heart literally hurts when I see you. The part of me that hated you for betraying our family is slowly being eaten away. I know that's not why you came here, so I think it would be best if you came home. I couldn't stand knowing you were around and not just gone from this house. I promise Maddie can come for a long visit, and you'll be welcome here anytime you want. Connie cried too, and gathering her courage, said, Jimmy, I wasn't sure what I wanted from you when I came here. I couldn't believe you could ever forgive me. I prayed for a long time that you and Maddie would give me another chance. I want to stay. I want with all my heart to be your wife again, and I promise never to give you reason to doubt my love and devotion ever again. If you want me to go, I will go. But that's not what I want to do. Jimmy remained silent. Connie moved from hugging to kissing, trying to see as much of his scars as she could. Finally, she reached his face and took his head in her hands. Her touch and kisses were better than what he remembered. He surrendered and responded to the kisses passionately. The couple hugged, cried, laughed, and kissed for several minutes. A new routine began. Jimmy continued to work as a carpenter, and Connie worked hard because of the limited nursing staff. Remarriage was out of the question. Separate bank accounts were maintained, and Connie paid her share. Although she and Jimmy slept together again, she used the guest bedroom on those nights when she got home so late and so tired. It was the easiest thing to do. Maddie went to school and continued to work with her spirit guide. In a way, it felt like the old days were back, just with a Native American background. That should have been a clue. The old bad habits came back like the old good ones. One day, Jimmy came home early because the weather was bad and no indoor carpentry was needed. He was there to greet Maddie when she got home. Hey, Maddie, you're a little late, aren't you? Did you stop anywhere? Yeah, Dad, we need to talk. I don't like the sound of that. Boy trouble? No, woman trouble. And then Jimmy's first thought was that she was going to declare herself a lesbian, but he quickly dismissed the thought. She talked too much about boys. What or who do you mean? It was Mom again. Terror stabbed Jimmy painfully in the heart. No, not again. Did you see something in the vision? No, this time with my own eyes. I stopped by the clinic to see Mom for a minute and saw her leaving the room with Dr. Patel. He had forgotten to zipper up his zipper, and Mom was wiping something off her mouth. I went to the front door, opened it, but didn't come out. I acted like I had just walked in. Mom said hello to me, and we talked for a bit. She looked guilty as hell. We said goodbye, and I pretended to leave again. I was standing just outside her office door when she said to Dr. Patel, "We have to be more careful." I heard them kissing before I left. Jimmy withdrew into himself, as he often did in stressful situations. Maddie changed the subject. Talking about visions makes me lose my strength. It seems puberty can mess them up. My spirit guide warned me about that. Soon I'll be useless to the tribe. You know, some of the council members will want to kick us out. I've enjoyed our time here, but I think we can leave without feeling guilty. I've made some good friends, but you're the only one I can't lose. So you think it's time to leave again? Absolutely. Where to this time? Hawaii sounds good. Probably need carpenters there. She smiled. I don't think there's a Chippewa reservation there. Jimmy smiled back. Then we can get started. When do we set off? Jimmy asked. As soon as we pack up. Oh, I have one request, Jimmy guessed and spoke up. Oh, no, not again. Please, this has been so much fun. Okay, but we have to be careful. And this time we're taking all our money. She has what she has in her own account. Connie heard the sirens howling. Her recent conversation with Maddie had helped her come to the right conclusions. She ran out of the clinic and ran toward the house she shared with Jimmy and Maddie. She had made the right conclusion. After all, Maddie had seen her with Dr. Patel. Damn, how could I be so selfish and arrogant again?